Hello there. Welcome to Weird World, the podcast where we talk about weird stuff. I'm Emma.
I'm Carrie.
I'm Dean, and today we bring you one of our continuing Halloween spooky episodes as we do during October. This one has, I think, a fair amount of spookiness. It's something that's much, much lesser known, but still has some creepiness.
Dean is going to lead it, right?
Uh-huh.
Yep, Dean.
No, let me do it, everybody.
Carrie's not going to do it because Carrie has, we suppose, some kind of triple pneumonia.
She might have the bubonic plague. We're not
have that.
sure. Waiting on some blood work, but
I have not COVID.
we know that.
know that.
Yes, we know that. But what she does have is a sultry voice, which I kind of like, but then also I'm kind of getting sick of.
Yeah, husky, but she won't
well,
stop sniffing.
Sorry.
Well,
Go ahead, Dean.
okay. Who wants to go for a hike?
Rachel.
She posted about it on it.
Did she really?
Yeah, she went on one today.
Oh, well, I did not know that.
She's become quite the hiker.
Has she? That's good. So let's say you're walking along a mountain path through the crags of the Santa Lucia Mountains. Ever heard of those?
No.
We'll learn more about those in a moment. You hug the central coast of California along this path, because those mountains do. The Pacific Ocean is surprisingly close to you on the west. You were warned, though, by some smart person before you went on this hike that you knew there might be someone else residing on those high mountain ridges besides you when you go on your hike. So, because you were warned, you try not to look behind you as you take this trip. All you have is a stick, maybe some water, but that's it. You don't have a camera, you don't have a phone, you don't have any high-tech equipment. Nothing like that at all. Again, because you were warned.
I don't understand what's happening here.
Oh, you will.
I'm confused.
Finally, you can't hold out any longer, so you just quickly shoot a look behind you. You look up along one of the high slopes that surrounds you. Maybe you even felt a little bit of a presence before you did that. But then you see it. There, standing near one of those jagged peaks, is something. It's 10 feet tall, maybe even taller. Some have said up to 15
Jesus.
feet tall. It's dark, almost like a silhouette. It's human, you think, but maybe not entirely human. Humanesque, perhaps. Has very long arms and appears to be holding some kind of a stick or, Carrie, a stave in its hands.
Forgot that word.
You forgot that word? I'm going to
Yeah.
use it. I'm going to try to use it almost every episode from now on. And it is dressed in some kind of like a dark cloak, some kind of a flowing black gown. And on top of his head, it wears a wide-brimmed hat.
I know what it is.
Well, that's fun.
You do know what it is. Carrie knows what it is.
This sounds like a video game like character.
It's a Dementor.
Dementor?
You know
From
what? Maybe it gave rise to the Dementors, I guess,
Harry
which, as we know, are
Potter?
fictional characters. These are not.
Oh.
You stop and you stare, but this thing watching you does nothing but brood silently, and that's what it does. It watches you as you wisely start walking again, and you soon pass through its domain. But just as the end there, before you head down that slope or turn a corner, you glance back again very quickly, and you see nothing. The creature has disappeared.
I would go poo-poo in my pants.
But now you're safe. You made it through your trip along the Santa Lucia Mountains, and good thing you were warned before you took that trek.
And you wore your adult diaper.
You probably wore your
To go
adult diaper.
poo-poo.
Is that a
Yep.
thing? Oh, because Emma would
Depends.
wear her adult diaper.
I would wear a pair of
yes.
Depends.
But you knew what to do and what not to do. Most importantly, you did not attempt to get close to that black-headed being. You did not try to approach it. You would not have tried to take a picture of it, even if you had been foolish enough to have brought a camera, high-tech equipment, because you knew if you tried to take a picture of it, it would simply disappear. And if you tried to approach it, it would disappear before you got anywhere close. Because what have you just seen? You have just seen a dark watcher.
Like in the Marvel universe?
Dun, dun.
What? There's a Dark Watcher in the
Not a
Marvel
dark,
universe?
but there's the Watchers.
Well,
you know?
this is not that. This is the
The
Dark
big-headed
Watcher.
boys?
No,
Okay.
I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
No, not those people at all. This is a Dark Watcher.
Damn it.
Black cloak, featureless hat, staves. Let's go back to the Santa Lucia Mountains.
Never heard of
Where
You
is
ever heard of
this?
Santa Lucia Mountains?
Where
They
is
rise
it?
5,000 feet, up over 5,000 feet. The biggest one is the Junipero Serra Peak at
Okay,
5,857 feet, which is about 1,785 meters. Cone Peak at over
Wait.
5,000 feet high.
Can we rename Junipero Serra?
We should, yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
That's important. Yeah, okay, yes.
What should we name it?
Almost anything else would
Yeah.
be better than Junipero Serra, since he did pretty much exterminate the Native Americans in the area.
God.
Or certainly helped do that. Thanks a lot, Junipero. I used to live near Junipero Serra in Boulevard in Long Beach.
Yeah.
Let's
There's
rename that
tons
too.
of
Already. Yes,
stuff
there are.
named after that
He was a big
guy.
deal. He was a big guy for starting
Yeah.
churches and wiping out Native Americans.
Kind of a monster.
Fuck that guy.
Cone Peak is over 5,000 feet, and it's the highest mountain that's within 3 miles of the ocean in the continental U.S. I guess there must be one in Alaska. I don't know.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. The
Right
Santa
here in
Lucias,
our own backyard.
Right here in our backyard. The Santa Lucias run north to south. They're never more than about 11 miles from the California coast. They run from just south of Carmel in Monterey County all the way through San Luis Obispo County. So they are all right along the central coast of California.
Wow.
Okay.
We have been there. We have passed through them.
I
At least
feel
I have.
dumb.
I'm pretty sure you have. You probably have. I know I have.
Oh, I'm sure I have too, but I
Yeah.
feel dumb that I never knew that's what it was called.
In fact, it's super rugged. They hug the coastline along the whole way, so it's an odd place for a mountain range. The famous Big Sur, the stretch of coastline called Big Sur in California, that starts I think just south of Carmel, I think, but it's in mostly Monterey County on the central coast of California. That is basically the Santa Lucia Mountains plunging into the sea, essentially. In places along that stretch of coast, you've seen it, you've been on it, we've driven on it. The mountains rise like right from the sea with steep cliffs above you, and you drive Pacific Coast Highway. In some stretches, you are just on the precipice overlooking the ocean. It's a pretty white knuckle drive. We've done it. Did you black it out?
No, I remember.
Okay, good.
I don't know if I've ever done this one.
It's a little bit of a scary drive because you are right on the ocean.
Where is it again?
Central Coast, California.
Oh.
So Monterey County, San Luis Obispo County.
No.
It's an incredibly scenic drive.
We
But
did that in your little Honda del Sol.
Yeah, that's a good car to have on that stretch, because if you have someone with a big profile, it could be scary, or even without. The Chumash tribe of Native Americans have lived along California's central coast for thousands of years. They even inhabited some of the Channel Islands, where they would have coexisted with pygmy mammoths up until just a few thousand years ago. Do you know there was one? The last mammoth was actually survived in the Channel Islands, I think like 4,000 or 5,000 years ago.
I did not know
Really?
that
Far
at all.
beyond all the continental mammoths that died out at the end of the ice age 10,000 plus years ago were the second to last. There was a pygmy mammoth on one or more of the islands.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and the Chumash, they built these redwood plank canoes that were very good at sea travel. Those canoes were considered technologically just as good as anything the Polynesians were building at the time when they were sailing all over the ocean. Their homes are these dome-shaped huts built from reeds, so they look like hairy igloos. Have you ever seen them? Well, I think we actually have seen them. We've seen them at some museum or something like that. They had like a recreation of one. They really look like, literally, think of an igloo that looks sort of hairy. This kind of light brown reed, like hairy like reed thing. That's what they made their homes out of. They fished in the ocean. They gathered shellfish along the rocky beaches. They gathered nuts and fruits and tubers, I imagine, from the mountains and the valleys that dot this very rough stretch of coastline. Names from the Chumash include Lompoc, Pismo Beach, and Malibu.
Cool.
They
Never.
lived basically on the Central Coast all the way down into Southern California along the coast.
Wow.
Lovely.
Lots of familiar names there.
Sure.
I've never been to any of those
I've
places.
been to all of those places. And it was the Chumash that gave us the legend of the Dark Watchers. Okay, we're back from one of Carrie's spasms. Carrie just had to pause things here because she blew her nose, and did you notice that she wiped her whole face? What's going on? You have to wipe your face.
Okay, this is not appropriate podcast content.
Oh, it's very appropriate.
I think it's funny. It gives them a glimpse into our lives.
It does.
Makes us more
Especially-
human,
It
know?
humanizes you, Carrie.
Yeah.
Even you, Carrie, can get sick.
Right. Yes, I can get sick. But I blew my nose like a proper lady.
Yeah, you did blow your nose like a proper lady. And then did you go to do a cough-like fist to the mouth and then belch? Yes, I think you did. We're going to...
Everybody burps.
Okay. That's
She's even more human now.
Very good
Yes.
children's book. It was the Chumash that gave us the legend of the Dark Watchers. So again, they're tall and dark. They're always on the mountains looking after you and looking up you anytime you walk through the Santa Lucias. So the Chumash would see them all the time, watching over them, but having otherwise very little interaction with them. They knew to never approach any Dark Watcher, and they also would sometimes bring gifts and offerings, it is said. According to the legend, the Dark Watchers typically appear near dusk or dawn, so beginning of the day and the end of the day. They were also said to have this amazing hearing, an amazing eyesight, I guess the better to watch over the trespassers in their world. So knowing these things and in this way, the Chumash coexisted with these beings in their patch of California. In more modern times, it's said that the Watchers never appear to anyone carrying any kind of sophisticated equipment. You recall our hiker from a moment ago
Yes,
was
I do.
warned
Yes.
about that. So I guess it's okay to have like a walking stick. I mean, they do.
They do.
They're pretty, rude if they didn't allow that. Maybe you can have a hat too.
Yeah.
I guess I'm assuming because they do too. But if you had if you have any kind of a camera or some kind of high tech equipment, they would never appear to you.
This
See,
is very convenient.
it is very
Super
convenient, but it's
duper.
also part of the legend, Carrie. All right.
Really, the Chumash Indians said,
Well,
Do
I'm
not
supposing
carry-
that was noticed some years later.
Okay.
Chumash
I'm imagining.
natives.
Yes,
Oh,
Carrie.
I'm sorry.
Thank you
I
very much,
apologize.
Carrie.
Thank you.
She still calls the Washington football team the Redskins because that's what she's like.
Yeah, because she knows anything about football.
People also have often reported feeling kind of a foreboding when walking the trails along the Santa Lucia Mountains, but the Dark Watchers have never attacked anyone
Oh.
that we know of
Dun, dun, dun.
well, how is that scary?
because maybe they have.
And they couldn't tell the tale.
Exactly. And they found a hook on the outside of the dog. As our intrepid trekker knew at the beginning of the story here, if you attempt to approach a Dark Watcher, they disappear. So no one has actually ever seen the face or the facial features of a Dark Watcher. They just, again, they almost like the silhouette, kind of an idea. They will disappear if you approach them. So they sometimes also disappear if you change how you're looking at them, change your angle. And you know what? You may never be seen again because there are some legends that say people have disappeared in the Santa Lucia Range and possibly connected to Dark Watchers. I don't know. I don't want to cast aspersions.
It has to be because nobody disappears in the mountains.
Never
That's
once.
Good point.
Correct.
Very
Oh, yeah.
well.
It's got to be
taken.
nefarious.
Oh, Carrie. But others say that the Dark Watchers are benevolent, really. That they're actually the reason they're up there watching you is to make sure you make it out okay.
That's so sweet of them.
They're keeping tabs on you.
Nice.
I know. It just
Has anybody reported being saved by a Dark Watcher?
like a dolphin in the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Not that I know of, anyway. But remember, they're only going to keep tabs on you if you don't have any high-tech equipment. They're very anti-tech. I think probably because they hate tech bros,
Yeah.
which is fair. So
Super fair. I mean, they live in California. There's a lot of
There
them.
you go.
So they probably heard like they're kind of rude.
they're not that far from Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, thanks again, Elon, for now the Dark
Ruining
Watchers
it.
won't help us out if we have a cell phone. I mean, God damn it. Then the Spanish conquistadors and their priest came to the same part where the Chumash had lived for so many thousands of years, and they began to systematically wipe out the Chumash and their culture through disease and slavery and forced conversion.
Yep.
No shock there.
The last Chumash to speak their ancient language died in 1965.
Oh.
So there's no native speaker. I mean, I imagine we must have recordings of it, but
Yeah.
there's no native speaker of
Like
Chumash.
Ishi.
Very much so. I think her name was Mary Lee. She was the last one. There are currently about 5,000 or so Chumash remaining. Many of them live on a 127-acre reservation located near Santa Ynez in, I think, northern Santa Barbara County, which is wine country.
Yep.
So if you're up there tasting some wine, maybe, head out to the reservation and make an asshole out of yourself. But hugely appreciated. It was the Spanish who gave us the name of these creatures. The area began to be explored in the 1500s by the Spanish, but it really didn't have significant settlement until the 1700s. And that was when the Spanish started seeing the Dark Watchers on the peaks of the Santa Lucia Mountains. These unexplained sentinels terrified them often, so they called them the Los Vigilantes Oscuros, which is literally means the Dark Watcher. At least I read that it literally means the Dark Watcher, but I don't know, does it? I don't know. Vigilantes is Watcher?
Could be.
I guess, okay.
Somebody
could
fact
not-
check us.
Could not discern that second word that you said.
Oscuros. I rolled my R's because I always do, even though there's only one R and I shouldn't have. It's kind of showing off.
See, that sounds like that's the Watcher part.
But what? No,
Spell it.
Vigilante is not going to be dark. Oscuros must mean
Oh,
dark,
yeah,
and
that's
Vigilantes
true.
must mean Watcher. Because, a Vigilante is I guess. So I guess the translation of that is Dark Watcher. Carrie's checking it on Google right now as we speak. Something I could have done and chose not to. The early white settlers began realizing that they were being watched when they traveled through the Santa Lucia Range as well. So Dark Watchers was apparently settled local legend by the 20th century for sure, because that's when they made their first appearance to kind of a semi-mass audience. That's when we first hear about them here in print, at least. The first time was a poem by the California poet named Robinson Jeffers. He wrote a poem called "Such Counsels You Gave to Me," published in 1937 in a book of poetry. And in that, he writes about a young man who's walking through the Santa Lucias when he sees something up along a ridge. I'll quote from the poem. "The fall of the hill toward Howrans, he saw apparently a person on the verge outlined against the darkening." Wait, it's just badly punctuated. "He saw apparently a person on the verge outlined against the darkening commissure of the farther hills, intently gazing into the valley. ... He thought it might be one of the Watchers, who are often seen in this length of coast range, forms that look human to human eyes, but certainly are not human. They come from behind ridges and watch." End quote.
Interesting.
In this poem, though, when the young man approaches the Watcher, he realizes all he's really seeing is a reflection of himself. So it becomes kind of weird.
Yeah.
But Robinson Jeffers used the legend to illustrate a point in his poem. More famously, or at least a little bit more famously, the still somewhat struggling writer John Steinbeck, who would later, of course, be one of the greatest writers of all time. He wrote a collection of short stories called The Long Valley. He published it in 1938. One of those stories was called Flight, and that story features a young Mexican-American fleeing through the Santa Lucia Range to, I think he committed some accidental crime, like accidentally killed somebody, so he's fleeing for his life. He knows he's going to be arrested. And here is a passage from that story about the Watchers. Quote, "Pepe looked suspiciously back every minute or so, and his eyes sought the tops of the ridges ahead. Once, on a white barren spur, he saw a black figure for a moment, but he looked quickly away, for it was one of the Dark Watchers. No one knew who the Watchers were, nor where they lived, but it was better to ignore them and never to show interest in them. They did not bother one who stayed on the trail and minded his own business." End quote. So you have kind of the fully fledged legend by at least 1938, and certainly before that, because John Steinbeck is obviously playing off of a legend that he was aware of. His mother, John Steinbeck's mother, she was a big believer in Dark Watchers. Her name was Olive Hamilton. She was a teacher, and she'd trek through the hills on her way to teach sometimes, or often, I guess, and during these sojourns, she would claim to have seen the Watchers many times. She even said that sometimes she would bring gifts of them to them, like fruit or nuts or flowers, and she favored a little secluded spot near Mule Deer Canyon. She'd go there and she'd leave her gift, and on the way back, on the return trek to home, she'd go there and her gifts would be gone and something else would be there waiting for her in exchange.
Oh, like what?
I didn't say in what I read.
Oh, I want to know what the Watchers left for her.
Probably not high-tech equipment,
No.
I'm going to assume. Or maybe weirdly it was. I don't know.
Maybe it was walking sticks.
Yes. Sacrifice child. Who knows?
Who knows?
Say. Just kidding. Jerry thinks it's terrible. Since then, there have been many supposed encounters. In the mid-1960s, a school principal hiking with some friends near the Monterey Peninsula suddenly looked up, and he spotted a dark watcher watching, as they do, from above. So he shouts out to all his fellow hikers there and says, hey, look. When everybody turned up to look,
It was gone.
it was gone. They tend to vanish very quickly. They don't. Mind your own business. Leave them alone. You can kind of look at them a little bit, but don't draw attention to it. And do not walk toward it. There's 2 more stories about Dark Watchers. I took this from the Skeptoid podcast episode on Dark Watchers, and these stories were supposedly, I guess, from like online discussion groups. I don't know if that's a thing, but here's the
Reddit,
first one.
otherwise known as Reddit.
Probably.
Reddit.
We see the Dark Watchers all the time. This is someone who wrote into it. They are always out at dusk and dawn. All you see is just a tall, dark silhouette. They almost look like horses standing on their hind legs with the assistance of a walking stick. Huh. It's pretty creepy, and nobody has ever seen them close up. They disappear the moment you try to get closer. That's one story. Horses. So they're very kind of angular shape. Again, they're always presented as human or human-like, but like they're human, but I just don't feel like they're completely just pure. They're not just 15-foot humans. There's something a little weird and different about them.
Yeah.
Here's another one. It was a really big human figure, but it wasn't. It had a black cape kind of like the Grim Reaper, and it was leaning over, holding on to a staff. Even in mid-light, he was very black and reminded me of a raven. That's the next story. So those are some folks who have written in about their adventures with the Dark Watchers. So that's fairly recent. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But before the Chumash natives were mostly murdered by the Spanish, they did thankfully give us this legend of the Dark Watchers. That's what the story tells us. Or did they? I think y'all knew that was coming.
Yeah, I think
so. The answer is maybe not. In fact, the answer is almost certainly not. In fact, the answer is for sure not. It has absolutely nothing to do with the Chumash Indians. I mean,
Natives.
I'm sorry, natives. You're right. Wow, I'm almost as bad as Carrie. Almost. Again, according to the Skeptoid episode I listened to, the closest thing is something called Nunasis, the closest from actual Chumash folklore. They're kind of like, I guess, monsters, like animals, like weird, misshapen animals, and they come into the middle world. That's where humans live. I guess there's multiple worlds, and they spread sickness and bad things. Right? That's the legend of the Nunasis. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, by the way. These creatures, they might be somewhat humanoid, but they don't wear dark cloaks. They don't stand on mountains. They don't watch you. They aren't sentinels. They're in no way, shape, or form are truly Dark Watchers. And that's taking the Dark Watcher legend and then pouring over Chumash legend and trying to find something like it. And that's the best that you can do. I mean, if you would have heard that legend and you would never associate it in any way with Dark Watchers, it's clearly not that. So there's absolutely no truth to the idea that it came from the Chumash. That's something that's incredibly common.
Yes.
In any kind of paranormal, especially here in the United States and Canada too, where they always say, "Oh well, the ancient natives knew all about it," and they said that. I mean, that's Bigfoot, that's Loch Ness monster. I'm sorry, Lake Champlain monsters and other lake monsters in North America. It's virtually never true. Mm-hmm. And as far as I can tell, there are no written records of the Spanish settlers writing about the Dark Watches. Again, everything you read on the interwebs about Dark Watches, they always say, and then the Spanish told stories of being scared and seeing Dark Watchers. It's just copy and paste, repeat, rinse and repeat. And there's no truth there. There's never a source given. And it's just another thing like the ancients knew about it is to just repeat the same story unsourced from rendering to rendering to rendering. That's classic paranormal, quote unquote. I'm putting air quotes for research because it's not research. It's really the anti-research. Mm-hmm. So as far as I can tell, it doesn't look like there's anything. It doesn't appear to have been in print anywhere until Robinson Jeffers in 1937 and John Steinbeck in 1938, which is fairly recent. And also clearly some of the details about the Dark Watches we've shared here, they're pretty much nonsense. I think about the supposition that they have great eyesight, right? And they're keeping tabs on travelers. How could you? It's unknowable.
Yeah.
You can't know that. You
Yeah.
don't know their intent. You don't know their. Yeah. How would you? Great eyesight, and I think also great hearing.
Yeah. both of
Why?
those.
How? Who told you that? No one told you
Yeah.
that. How would you know that? You can't know that. So clearly, when it's something that's unknowable, it had to have been invented. It had to have been made up and then attached to this legend. There's also no clear disappearance related to the Dark Watchers. It's more just legend making. It's more. We've talked about this before. You add things to it. It accretes details and things like that have no basis in even in the kernel of that legend, and often. In terms, especially when it's something that's supposedly some kind of supernatural power or something like that, the reason for that is to make it less explainable. In this case, I think it's just to make it more interesting and add detail to it. But clearly, these details are made up. The utility of the no high-tech thing is incredibly obvious. That's so on the nose. That's
Yeah.
carrying us right away. That's just, I mean, how else do you explain that there aren't any pictures of Dark Watchers? Oh, well, obviously, no one with a camera can never see them because they hate technology and modern equipment for some reason.
Which is just silly. And did that part of the story or legend or whatever we're calling this, did that exist in the John Steinbeck? And
No.
So it's
No.
obviously.
It's a modern
Yeah.
invention. It's mostly right that there aren't any pictures, as I just mentioned. There are actually supposed pictures of Dark Watchers. And there's also references to pictures. Like I read one source says, and there's lots of pictures and some are very interesting. Well, I've seen them. I've looked at them. At best, they're clumsy fakes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not even well done. Some look like witches. Some literally look like witches because, they read about the wide brim hat. So I
Yeah.
think somebody's
Yeah.
got a silhouette of a witch because they're too lazy to draw a tall man with a wide brim
My
hat.
Lord.
So they just did some witches and superimposed the pictures up on hills. Others have white eyes. It's just these three men-looking things, but they're all black. They're like silhouettes, kind of in suits, sort of, and they have white eyes. Even though the legend very clearly says you can't see any of their facial features whatsoever. So that's just lazy. You just didn't read the whole legend when you made your fake photograph, whoever you are on the internet. One picture I saw is a guy in a black suit. And it looks like his head is either painted black, he's bald and it's painted black, or he's wearing a tight skin covering. It's almost like it was a Blue Man Group member, but they ran out of blue paint and had to use black paint. And he dressed in a black suit, and he takes a picture kind of at dusk in the mountains somewhere. He's walking a trail. Looks like a real person. But he wore, so he's black suit, black tie, right? White dress shirt. So
What?
you couldn't go get a black shirt, bro?
That's super easy.
Come on, go get a black shirt.
Laziness.
But also, if these are ancient beings, they're not
I
going to be
know.
wearing a suit
No,
and a
this guy.
tie.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe who knows? Some of these pictures may just be art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some are clearly intended to look like. Oh, look! I took this picture of a Dark Watcher,
Yeah.
and they're not well done.
And maybe the Watchers change with the times. They might.
Maybe.
Modernize.
Maybe. I still feel like you can do better.
You
Anna.
could have just gotten a
Come on,
black
Anna.
morph suit,
Yeah.
which is a head to toe, skin tight
Yeah.
suit. Get on some stilts. Do
There
some
you go.
photoshopping.
Get a stave.
Get a stave
Tell Carrie
and a
what
wide
stave is.
brim. I don't know what a stave is.
Get some gauzy material.
And a wide brim hat.
Yeah.
It's you guys are really not thinking this through.
Not at all.
There's
Not at
ways
all.
you could do it and do it well.
I feel like you can dress like Pope Benedict, but in black, and you
Yeah.
can pull it off.
Get Adobe.
I still picture Dementors, with the gauzy,
Yeah.
flowy black.
Kind of. That
Kind
could
of.
work. That could work. Take a picture of a Dementor, put it
Add
on a
a hat.
mountain, a Central Coast mountain picture. Boom.
See what happens.
Yep. Never know. Clearly, though, there was some kind of a local story before the 1930s because both Steinbeck and Jeffers were trading on that story. So there was clearly a legend.
Yeah.
At least by then, there had been a legend. And again, if we believe, actually, Thomas Steinbeck, who was John Steinbeck's son, told the stories of his grandma, John Steinbeck's mom, talking about the Dark Watchers and giving them gifts and things like that.
I
So,
heard he's a known liar.
Thomas Steinbeck, the
Yeah.
son of John Steinbeck, that's a pretty vicious slander for no reason.
For no
I'm
reason at
joking.
all.
Wow.
I'm
that
kidding.
that was
She's just being a silly goose.
that came out of anger, I feel like. Do you think it's because she has terminal pneumonia?
Probably.
Bronchial plague? But still, obviously, as we just talked about, this legend, however formed it was and whatever the quote unquote true parts of the legend were. It's gathered more detail along the way, and clearly there's been some modern inventions associated with it. So whether it was made up a very, very long time ago, the Spanish settlers or the Chumash, or it was made up relatively recently, it's still obviously an invention. So it could have been made in 1900, and by 1930s it was a well-known legend, and it could have been made up much, much, much more recently in terms of its details still. Whether it's old or new, an invention is still an invention. A phony detail is still a phony detail. People have seen, I think truthfully, and seen something they don't understand that is inexplicable to them up in the Santa Lucia Mountains. It's this weird-looking, tall, dark humanoid that's seen at dusk and dawn up a slope. And what's going on there? There are some theories of what might explain that. One of my favorites, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and say it's my favorite, is that it's actual people. That is nomads, mountain dwellers. They keep to themselves, and if you're walking through, it's like one of those, okay, keep walking. I'm watching you. Don't get on my lawn. You kids stay off my lawn. I'll watch you all the way to the other side of my lawn, then I'm going to go back in my house.
We call them Larrys.
Yes. Wow. Wow.
Whoa.
She's just kind of mean.
She's vicious.
She is. That's a good friend of ours who is like that, admittedly.
He's such a good friend. He doesn't listen to our podcast, so he'll never know.
Damn. Wow. This group of, mountain dwellers have never been recorded by anyone. They've never been contacted by modern Americans. In California's Central Coast.
Yeah.
That's not even true of the Amazon anymore. So, no. I'm going to say no to it's real people. And they'd have to be pretty tall, too. Some
super tall
humanoids, undiscovered California Central Coast.
Okay, so tell us again why this is your favorite.
Because it's ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
I
And
think
people
it's
have actually
fun.
said, hey, maybe it's this.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Depending on the region, it's somewhat believable. Like there are certain populations in parts of the world that are somewhat untouched
Yes.
and undocumented
Yes.
and not really, a part of
but we know about
modern
them.
world, but we know about
Yeah.
them.
Like backwoods,
Yeah.
people in the Appalachians or something.
Yeah.
I'm picking on
Yeah.
people who do terrible things with pigs. Those kinds of things. Just kidding.
I don't know much about
Could there
that.
be a group? But we know about them.
Yeah, and
We
I
know-
don't
we've seen
feel-
them with
I
Ben
don't-
Beatty. We know what they do. We know Burt Reynolds knows what they are.
And
so.
I don't see those being common at all in the state of California
not.
or
Yeah.
in that area of California.
Yeah.
Maybe if you go way up north.
Way up north.
In the state
yeah.
of Jefferson, they might be.
State of Jefferson, yeah.
God,
where
yeah,
they're
sure.
Cooking meth and hating the country. So, another potential explanation is hallucinations. Usually when people bring up hallucinations, they say, oh, maybe it's from oxygen deprivation.
Yeah.
And fatigue.
What?
So,
Yeah.
tired people and people who are deprived of oxygen can see and hear things that aren't there. But we're talking about peaks that are just a little over 5,000 feet.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
say.
I swear to God, you read about oxygen deprivation a lot.
That's
when
silly.
we're going to do a story on the Grey Man of Macdui, a legend from Scotland, and that peak is a little over 4,000 feet. And for that, they also cite oxygen deprivation.
Wow.
If that was true, it'd be routine for people to go skiing and trip balls.
Yeah.
All the time. They'd be seen, Dark Watchers would be seen everywhere all the time. Some microbrew would have Dark Watchers Black IPA. And, hey, wait a second. That actually sounds...
He's making a
You
note.
can't use that.
TN,
Microbrew, people.
we just trademarked it
Damn
right
it.
now.
Or call me at least. And maybe we'll work something out.
We don't know how to start a
But
beer.
the idea that it is some kind of oxygen deprivation thing, I'm going to say
Maybe these people
unlikely.
took Benadryl
Go on, I'm
and
listening.
accidentally took the drowsy kind and then had to fight sleep because you see some crazy shit when you fight sleep.
Let me assess that as a doctor, which I am, and I actually recently saved the toe
Oh,
of a friend of
Lord.
ours who, with my quick action.
Yes.
So, as a doctor, which again I am, not going to do a kind, I think there's something to your idea there.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's actually, there is kind of an ongoing joke, and I don't know if joke's the right word, but people, a lot of people take Benadryl to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And they say like, it's a joke that like I took 3 Benadryl and then fought my sleep and saw the shadow people and saw like the Hat Man in the corner.
Really?
Yeah. And a lot of people, so maybe it's that. Maybe one time I took some Dramamine and woke up and saw some crazy shit on the highway.
But if you take 3 Benadryl and go hiking in the mountains,
maybe they're
you're dumb.
taking allergy medicine because they're in
Gotcha.
nature and they took some drowsy kind.
You know what?
And they
Let's go with that.
saw shit.
Let's add that to the list of possibilities.
That's my guess for modern times, obviously.
Okay.
Folklore.
But we mentioned hearing things, you can't hear things. There's another kind of supposed idea that is sometimes, again, associated with the Dark Watchers, and it has to do with infrasound. Have you heard of infrasound?
Yes, I
Yes,
was
I
going to
have.
actually bring that up.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Some people say, okay, maybe this is involved somehow. Infrasound can cause feelings of dread and fear, and that's sound that's between 7 and 19 hertz, which is just below normal human hearing range, and infrasound can be caused by things like as simple as the wind, and it can make you kind of hear things and bring these weird feelings of foreboding.
Is this why Santa Ana winds make people crazy?
Probably. Maybe. I
Crazy.
don't know. Let's go with it.
Don't some
No, I think it's
movies-
ions or something like that.
That's what they say. Positive ions.
Yeah.
The fuck does that
Yeah.
even mean?
I'm not 1,000,000,000% sure. Where's
Grew up
Jack
in
when we need him?
Southern
I
What's
know.
he like
California.
right now.
You know what we're talking about.
Yes. So the problem with this theory, though, is that Dark Watchers are something that people have claimed to see, not to have heard. So I'm not 100% sure why infrasound is brought up, but it is. Like nomads.
Well, because it causes the phenomena of messing with your brain.
It causes,
That's why.
well, no, I think.
And are you able to
feelings of fear and
recognize it?
dread, yes. But then if you turn and see a Dark Watcher, that shouldn't be an infrasound thing.
Okay.
So again, the gray man of MacDouy, I'll eventually learn how to pronounce it before we do that episode.
Please, because
Good.
that sounds French, not Scottish.
MacDouy. Yeah, it does. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gray man of MacDouy. Is that better?
That is better.
Okay. That one is said to have the feelings of dread are an integral part of that legend, even more so than they are the Dark Watch. Dark Watches, you read that sometimes mostly as though you see these crazy 15-foot humanoids all in black. With the Grey Man in Scotland, sometimes you just hear it and feel it. So infrasound makes more
Interesting.
sense in that context than
Yeah.
it does in this context, I think. There's a visual as well with the Grey Man, of course.
I'm intrigued about that story.
We'll do it. We'll do it one of these days. So a better option, I think, is something we are a little bit familiar with here on the show is pareidolia. Am I pronouncing that right?
I don't
I have
know.
no
Damn it,
clue.
where's Jack? It's the pareidolia. Jack, how do you pronounce pareidolia? Is it pareidolia? The thing where you see things, where you see patterns. Pareidolia? We've been told is pareidolia.
By a resident scientist.
You say no.
Goodbye.
It is the tendency of humans to form patterns from things they see, even when there's nothing there.
Oh.
You turn those
Sure.
model shadows into a cave lion because it's about to kill you.
Yes.
In the olden days, like 20 years ago.
It's how
The olden
your
days.
your jacket hanging on a hook.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looks like a person in your bedroom.
Yeah. That's an easy one, though. I mean, pareidolia can really just literally shadows and things like that, and you form a shape out of nothing, not even something like,
Not an
a
object.
jacket looks like a person, even much less of a thing.
Just
than
a shadow.
That. Yeah, or a series of shadows, dark and light. It's basically a play on the hallucinations theory, right? That this has caused the Dark Watchers, but it's in the sense of kind of a misidentification. They're seeing, effectively, it's almost like people are seeing shadows up in the hills, and they're turning them into something human-like.
Yeah.
And that's the Dark Watchers. This is the idea. And again, they are typically seen along the slopes of the mountains up in the Santa Lucias. And so if you're on a slope, the sun is at your back maybe, and it's the early morning or dusk and dawn, right? Notice they're mostly seen at dusk and dawn.
Yep.
So the sun is much more likely to be at your back. And you're going to have some funky-looking long shadows. So pareidolia does make some sense. So that brings us to a close cousin of pareidolia, or at least it's like a fellow optical illusion. This is something called the Brocken specter. Here is an explanation of the Brocken specter from our friends at Wikipedia.
Super reliable source.
It actually is a very reliable, it's a highly reliable source.
That's not what they told me in high school.
Yeah, well, they're wrong.
Well,
Well, it is though. It's actually a referee now. It's actually a very good source.
But it's not an original source. So if you're writing an academic paper,
True.
you need to go
But
with the original source.
Yes, although that's getting less true all the time because a lot of the articles in Wikipedia. We shouldn't be on this tangent right now, obviously.
Yeah.
are fully sourced articles like you'd see in an Encyclopedia Britannica or something like that. So it's not completely true. It's a bias from the early days of Wikipedia that's becoming, I think, anachronistic.
Okay, thank you.
That's my soapbox.
And if you use Wikipedia all the time, you should donate to them.
And you can't just go on and change Wikipedia anymore like you used to do.
Yeah.
The specter, this is from Wikipedia, that Carrie just badmouthed. The specter appears when the sun shines from behind the observer, who is looking down from a ridge or peak into mist or fog. That's critical. The light projects their shadow through the mist, often in triangular shape due to perspective. The apparent magnification of size of the shadow, so it's really long, is an optical illusion. It occurs when the observer judges their shadow on relatively nearby clouds to be the same distance as faraway land objects seen through gaps in the cloud. So it looks like it's much larger. It's actually much closer to you on that mist or that cloudiness than other things are that you can see that are much, much further away. And so it messes up with your perspective. So it looks very long and very tall. And I'm going back to the quote here. The shadow also falls on water droplets of varying distances from the eye, confusing depth perception. The ghost can appear to move, sometimes suddenly, because of the movement of the cloud layer and variations in density within the cloud, end quote. That's basically, so that's specific to the Brocken specter, but it's essentially a class of optical illusion that you're essentially seeing your own shadow. And it looks tall, it looks more distant than you realize it is. It looks bigger and stretched out and angular and long than you think it is. And it's baffling. You don't know what it is. And it can be caused not just by sunlight, it can be by moonlight or even artificial light. It's just but it needs really specific conditions of angles and moisture in the air around you as well. But these areas of slopes with low sun angle are exactly where you expect to see these things. They're rare, but they're seen all the time. They're fully understood now. In fact, the Brocken specter, it was discovered in the 18th century in Germany, as you might have known. It's when travelers through the Harz Mountains in Germany, they had long been reporting seeing these dark creatures in the hills and the mountains there, and it terrified them. So this cat named Johann Silberschlag, great German name, by the way.
Strange name for a feline.
Oh my God, Karen. Johann, decided, I'm going to go figure out what this Brocken specter is. The specter means ghost, as you know. Brocken, I guess, was a town nearby, something like that. Let's say it was. So he decided to look into the phenomenon, and he figured it out. He explained it in 1780. He figured out what that was. It had to do with the light and the shadow and the atmosphere and what was causing it, and he was right. And so this is something, and I feel like if someone had done the same thing right now, he'd be, vilified in the media, attacked, called a liar, and not believed by all the people who believe it. But then, in a more rational time, 1780, people go, oh, okay, good one. We don't believe it's a ghost anymore. Mm-hmm. We believe what you just said because you just explained it to us. Different time. Sad.
Well, you weren't there. There could have been plenty of people who didn't believe him and still wanted to believe it was a specter.
Carrie's just really salty today. Have you noticed that? You weren't there, you son of a bitch. You went to 1780 Southern Germany, you asshole. Don't pretend you know what you're talking about.
She is right.
Maybe you're
on
right.
that.
Maybe you're right. But it seems like
that's not a new phenomenon now.
What's not a new phenomenon?
The whole denial of the truth.
You're right, but I feel like
because of your long-held beliefs into something.
But it does appear that it was quickly accepted as the appropriate explanation for this. Brocken specters can also have this halo-like ring or rings at their tops. They're called glories or glory rings or something like that. So, which is really intriguing because doesn't that sound like that's your wide-brimmed hat? It's weird. It's a weird detail, isn't it? The wide-brimmed hat. So is the stave or the stick, because that is another phenomenon or a characteristic of these Brocken specters. Is that elongation of the features. There's your stick, the glory, the halo along the top. There's your wide-brimmed hat. Dark watchers are always seen around dusk or dawn, as we just talked about. That's when the sun is low. That's the time that Brocken specters were always seen. That's the time that this phenomenon is almost always seen since then and now. And as we talked about earlier also, Brocken specters, like dark watchers, suddenly disappear if you change your perspective. So if you go close, it's like, oh, you can't approach it. No, you can't approach it. It disappears because you're changing your perspective and the phenomenon goes away. If you change your angle, it can usually go away, or sometimes it can move first and then go away.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing. I mean, I have seen some of those pictures. There are no legitimate pictures of dark watches, as we mentioned, but there are pictures of Brocken specters. You check them out. Maybe we'll put some on our social media. They look pretty damn spooky. Honestly, seeing a Brocken specter, seeing a dark watcher, let's say dark watchers are a version of a Brocken specter, that'd be pretty damn scary, especially if you don't know what you're seeing. You see this huge humanoid, long black thing seems to be watching you from the hill a short distance away. That's you're alone maybe going through the mountains. I would be pretty scared. So I want to do that. It's on the list. Weird world road trips. We're going to the Santa Lucia Mountains. We're going to see a dark watcher if it kills us. We're just going to walk across the trail again and again and again until we see one.
That one would be pretty easy for us.
Except
going, not seeing the watcher, but going.
Yes, it would. That would not be hard. I'm not really a dawn person, so I'm thinking it's more of a dusk thing.
Either. I'm more of a dusk fan.
So that is the story of the Dark Watchers, a legend from our own Central Coast here in California.
That is quite interesting.
We have never heard of before.
They're not that well known. Yeah, oddly enough. Even though I think it's an interesting legend. I think it has a good, very likely explanation, but it doesn't make it to me any less interesting than if I think there's some kind of a creature up there, which I would not have thought because I'm a grown up. But it does have this, I think, interesting answer that doesn't lessen its intrigue to me at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're a grown up who loves strange
He
creatures.
loves
I do.
it.
So
I
don't
do.
act like
no, I wish there was dark watchers up there watching over us. I would never bring high tech with me.
Never.
I would wave to them, but I would not try to approach them.
I would respect them deeply.
And I would bring them flowers and nuts.
Yes.
Not the good almonds. I mean, the unsalted almonds that you forgot and you bought out by accident because you thought they were salted or smokehouse, and I'd bring them those almonds, sure. So that is the Dark Watchers.
Well, thanks.
Very
Steve.
Hope you
interesting.
enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. I have vaguely heard of them for a long time ago, but I ran across them again recently. I thought, that sounds like a good story for now, the Halloween season, which we are, as you know, in the midst of. So look for another spooky Halloween episode next week here on Weird World.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.